Hi there. In this video, we're going to talk about the changes we've made in our retirement plan. We're also going to talk about how we have been dealing with the inflation because we did retire during high inflation times.
Hey everybody, welcome back to our channel. My name is Jim.
I'm Corinne.
And today we're talking about how we RV'd into retirement. And right up front, I'm going to tell you this is going to be a little bit of a lengthy program. What we'll do is put chapters below so that you can go exactly to the section that you want or watch it a little bit at a time. And you may want to take notes here and there. And we developed our plan a couple of years ago, and there's a couple other videos we did on that, but it's changed drastically since then. So it's been a while. We're going to give you an update today. So let's jump into that.
Yeah, so just as a reminder, the last video we did was actually a year before I retired, and now I've been retired a little over a year. So it's about 2 years ago that we did our original plan. And so it sounded good at the time, but as you know, as you get more into reality, things do evolve. So first thing I wanted to talk about was our income. So if you remember my other video, we talked about income, expenses, and then some other things, but I like to think about it in those pieces. So our income, we are collecting Social Security, and we changed our plan pretty drastically on how we were doing that or when we were going to collect. Our original video, we were going to have Jim wait until he was 70. At the time, it was 66. And we ended up having him collect at 66, and I did collect at 62 when I retired. And the reason we did that is when we used that calculator and we started thinking about our lives and the fact that now we really want to be spending the money, we want to be doing what we're doing rather than saving the money or waiting. That's pretty much why we ended up doing having him not wait until 70.
Yeah, I think the philosophy was we're going to do a lot more and be a lot more active in the earlier years of retirement than in the latter years. And we're not worried about running out of money, so we didn't need to maximize the Social Security.
Right. And it's not like we have millions of dollars, so I'll just tell you, we do not. But we are, it's just live life, enjoy life. And then Jim and I also have a 4.5 year difference between us. And to wait until he's 70, we don't know what his health is going to be. We don't know what my health is going to be. So that was also contributed to why we decided to do what we did. And what we originally were talking about a couple of years ago, we were going to do annuities. We had looked into that pretty seriously, and we ended up not doing that. We ended up deciding, and I think it was Jim that actually said, we can manage our own money and we can invest our money rather than depending on someone, an insurance company to basically manage and give us an income.
And, you know, it was a really good decision that we didn't do that, because the annuity is at a fixed rate and it didn't account for any inflation. And the last couple of years we've had record inflation, and so our money's been working for us better in other places, and we'll discuss a little bit about that later.
Yeah, so the first thing is how we consolidated our money. Obviously, because when you have IRAs, you have to keep them separate because they're tied to your Social Security number. So we both do have our own IRAs. But we like to look at the pot of money as a whole, so we add them back together. But the other thing is that I had been talking about, I had a pension from a former employer, one that I had worked for many years ago, that actually gave me a pension. And rather than take that pension, I decided to cash it out. And I was going to cash it out anyway, but originally I was going to cash it out and put it into another annuity. And that's obviously an option that people have. But decided that I will take that lump sum of money and then add it to my IRAs. And then I also had my 401k and I added that to my IRAs. We had a checkbook IRA that we had done for some home investments and, you know, rental properties. So I took all those pieces and consolidated it. So now I have one account, one IRA that has all of my money in it, as does Jim. He did the same exact thing. So we're in control of it, which we feel really good about. Now, where I want Jim to talk about is really what we invested in, because it's a little bit different. And we were very happy to stumble upon on this plan.
And so we were doing research and I came across this woman named Christine Benz, and she works for Morningstar, which is a company that is pretty popular as far as rating mutual funds and such. And she had these the bucket plans, and she didn't originate it, but I think she perfected it. And basically you had 3 buckets of your money. And the first bucket was anywhere from a year to 2 years worth of living expenses in liquid assets, in cash or high producing money market funds. The second bucket was basically bond funds, and those were supposed to last basically from years 2 through 10 in retirement. And then the third bucket has growth mutual funds. And so the 3 of them together are working to basically always refill your bucket 1. So bucket 3, you rebalance once a year. She puts out recommendations for the funds. You can do aggressive conservative or moderate based on your timeline that you want the money to basically last you.
And what I like is that she does look at it each year. She looks at, number one, what funds are actually going to be, what bonds are going to be in your portfolio, but also the percentage breakdown of you want 15% of this and 15. So you can do that rebalancing, and people do rebalancing. I mean, I used to rebalance occasionally my IRA or my 401k, I should say. But this is the same process. So in December, we know that we're going to do a rebalance, and we also check to make sure that she hasn't thought differently and decided to change out one of the funds or something like that.
And having that 2 years of living expenses really protected us from the downturn in the stock market, where the mutual funds were going down. And they're reinvesting, so we're buying more shares at a cheaper price. But you didn't depend on it. We didn't have to take any withdrawals from it. And in fact, we didn't have to take any withdrawals from our cash bucket either. And I don't know, are you talking about the war camping at any point?
Yes, we are going to talk about how we,
Okay.
Yes, we will be talking about that. So yeah, it's been, for us, I mean, now we're in year 2 of retirement. Well, Jim has been retired for a while, but I'm in year 2, and we feel pretty good about what we've been doing with the investments. So I would recommend that if you're looking at what to do with the money that you've got in, usually it's a 401k or something, just to take a look at the Christine Benz 3 bucket system. There are other buckets, like I think there may be a 2 bucket and there may be some additional, and there are other people that have some little differences, but I feel really comfortable with it, and it is working well for us.
I'll post a link in the comments or the description section, and you can read it for yourself. It may not be for everybody, but if I find it to be a very conservative, safe approach, and you're not going to get rich, and you're not going to be poor by going with this strategy, and it provided us the comfort that we needed to stay out on the road.
So if you're finding this video valuable, I hope you'll like it, and also think about subscribing to our channel, because we will have other videos, hopefully that'll be of interest to you in the future.
And also, any questions you have, about any of this, and leave them in the comments below. That really helps YouTube create search algorithms so that other people looking for the same advice can find our videos, and we appreciate it also.
So now we just talked about our income, and now we're going to talk about expenses. So when we were thinking about how we were going to deal, first of all, with our expenses, rather than taking everything out of one account, which is similar to how we did it when I was working, we decided that we were going to split all of our expenses into two, I'll call them buckets because I like the word buckets. But one of the buckets is our day-to-day expenses. And our day-to-day expenses includes our food, our entertainment, dining out, I'm trying to think, gasoline, just the basic things. It's kind of like our allowance. So we have one account that we've set up that we pay ourselves. So then the second bank account we have, we've got the first one, and then we have the second one. The second one we don't really touch much. It's really, everything is on auto pay in that one. And those are all of our monthly expenses and any subscriptions. So things that we have, like, you know, our RV loan, our insurance payments for RV, my medical insurance stuff. I'm trying to think what else is in there. Anything that's a monthly expense that I don't even have to think about. I just have it on auto pay. So again, we're not in a house, so we don't have those expenses. We just have our RV expenses. Oh, it'll be like our any satellite or any kind of like
reoccurring phone bills. Anything that's a monthly bill goes into this other account. All the money goes into that account, and what comes out of it are for all of the bills. And then we pay ourselves. We transfer a certain amount of money to another account, and that's our allowance.
Yeah. So it's just the way we've organized it, and it's working really well for us because that way we're not overspending the money that we need to have for those automatic bills. So one of the other big expenses that we had to deal with going into retirement were our medical expenses. So Jim is covered by Medicare. So we already have that figured out. It comes out of his check, his Social Security check. And so that's kind of a no-brainer. For me, I had those 3 years, and I still have 2 years to bridge to Medicare. So I had to find a solution that was going to work for me. So initially I did take Cobra, found it very expensive. It was like $550 a month, and I don't use $550 a month in expenses. I'm healthy, so I don't really, it was really bothering me. So I have changed to something else. I looked at some other things, like I looked through the Farm Bureau, I looked at the ACA stuff, which was not, you know, none of this stuff was going to work for me. So I did find a plan, and that I'm going to talk about it in another video because honestly, it's built for RVers, first off, and then it also is a good, it's very affordable. And then it gives you everything that you need. In my book, it gives me everything that I need. But I'll talk more about that. I'm very happy with that, and that'll bring me all the way to when I can get my Medicare. When I was working, I was still an Arizona resident because that's where our home was. That's where I had been working for all those years. But since I was working on the road, I could really have my residency anywhere and we're not living in Arizona. So we ended up changing our residency while I was still working from Arizona to South Dakota. Jim, I think you've done another video on that quite a while ago, so you can look for that video as well. But we ended up saving on that. We were trying to, again, reduce all our expenses. And so that actually does save us anywhere between 2 and 3% on our income taxes. So it's not like a huge chunk of change, but it definitely helps because South Dakota, as you know, doesn't have any kind of income tax. So now I want to talk about how we are addressing inflation. Interestingly enough, we retired during the highest inflation we've had in a long, long time. And you know, many people who had retired in the years before us were very fortunate because the market was very good, inflation was low, so that it was a good time to retire. When we retired, it was at like the start of the really high inflation. So that really became worrisome because we had budgeted, and I had put in like a factor of like 3% inflation, but our inflation in 2021 was ridiculous, and that's when I retired. So we have done some things to try to mitigate or address the high inflation, and luckily at this moment, inflation has kind of leveled off, so it's not terrible right now. So one of the main things that we've done is we look at our largest expenses and how can we reduce those if at all possible. And those things would be like our site cost, our fuel use, and our repairs. So for site costs, one of the things that we've been doing, as you know, we've done some work camping. We did work camping last summer. The summer right after I retired, so that was when we were in the high inflation. We did work camping in the winter of 2022 to 2023 as well, and now we're work camping this summer as well. So we've been doing some work camping, and what that has helped us with is the site. So we don't have to worry about that. We're not paying, you know, $1,200 or more dollars every month for sites. The other thing that it helps with is fuel. We use diesel fuel, and diesel had gotten very expensive. It had gotten over $5 a gallon. It was crazy, and then it went down. It was nice. It went down to 3 something, and then now I think it's back up around 4 or something like that. But so that's going to be varying. So what I do in my budget for the year, and I do make a budget. I just basically do an updated budget at the very beginning of the year, and we kind of have an idea of what kind of travel we're going to do, and I use Google Maps just to figure out kind of mileage, even though I know we don't navigate with Google Maps for our RV, but it gives me an idea of how many miles. So if I know kind of how many miles, I can make sure that I'm going to have that in my budget, and that's exactly how I deal with that. So we do plan ahead, so that way we don't have to freak out about the fuel costs. And then the third piece was repairs, and Jim does a lot of self-repair. I mean, he's doing things that he never thought he would do. He always told me he doesn't do plumbing, he doesn't do carpentry, he doesn't do electric. Well, he does electric, he does plumbing, he does all these things. He does crazy stuff in our RV. In fact, this year he replaced our macerating toilet, which we had been putting that off for a long time to get that replaced because we didn't really want to have to spend the labor to have it done, as well as it's an expensive piece. It's like, you know, I think it was like $1,100 or $1,200, and who wants to spend that on a toilet? But I could tell you, he ended up doing it. He was very nervous about it, and it's great. It's like I hate to say this, but it's like the best toilet I've ever had. So we love our toilet. But he did it. So by doing a lot of self-repairs, he's done a lot of stuff. I don't even know, like...
I think there's the fear that everybody might have is once you get so far into it, then what do? You don't want to be stuck without something.
Especially a toilet.
You know, I researched quite a bit until I felt confident that I can do it. And I implore everybody to give it a shot yourself. There's plenty of information out there, but it's a big cost saving. Every time you don't have to call a repair person. I mean, there's a lot of little things that can go wrong, and you don't need to call somebody at the drop of a hat.
Yeah. Yeah, thankful for his ability to self-repair, and now that he's done all the things he's done, I think it has boosted his confidence of what he can do. So anyway, that's another way that we save money, especially in high inflation and just inflation in general. Everything's always going up, right? And then the other thing that we're doing is we've been doing that work camp, and like I said, so that takes care of our site, but it also gives us, not in all cases, because one of our jobs didn't have any income, but it gives us some of that income also. And it's not like we're living high in the hog because we've got all this money. We're not making a high rate. We're making a pretty low rate, but the money it kind of replaces what we would be taking out of our Social Security. So that's what we like about it. We get paid and it replaces that. And so we don't necessarily have to take the money out. So that money can either sit there, go into savings or whatever, but we have, it helps us stretch our money basically.
Yeah, we work 24 hours a week, and 12 of those hours goes towards our site every other paycheck, and the rest is money we haven't had to really take out of savings or our bucket one, which is 2 years worth of expenses.
Yeah.
We haven't had to touch it. In fact, we've been building it up.
Yeah, which is really good, because then when we do travel and go for just fun, we have that money. So.
Yeah, I know a lot of people like to travel every couple of weeks, and that can get super expensive. If you have the money, good for you if that's your lifestyle. I also find it labor intensive to be breaking down and packing up. So we tend to like to stay in one spot, become part of the community for a little bit, and then move on.
Yeah.
Before we wrap things up, I just wanted to say once again, if you do have any questions about what we did and how we did it, we're by far from experts, but we've talked it over a lot. And I think that if you and your partner or wife or spouse check all your options and talk about it openly, the pros and the cons, and flush them all out, you'll make a plan that might work for you. And
do your research. Do your research. Don't make snap decisions. Sit with it for a little bit, because it's like when I think about the fact that we didn't do any of the annuities, we were like right there ready to pull that trigger, because we were like, oh, this is it. This is the answer. We were very happy that we didn't, and that we just kept thinking about it and talking about it and looking forward. So I would suggest, yeah, definitely don't it's a big decision. They're big decisions.
So as we promised, Corinne's going to do an upcoming video on how she has affordable benefits, health benefits, before she is on Medicare. And you won't want to miss this one. It's going to be quite informative. Until next time, have a great week, and we'll see you folks hopefully on the road.
Bye.
Bye-bye.